Okay, this is part 2 of the similarity and scale factor worksheet. I'm starting on number 13, and I'm going to do 13, 15, 16, 18, and 20 if I have time. This one seemed to be confusing to several people, and I think it was a little hard to see by looking, but this is rotated from this one. So the 75 corresponds to the 100 because you notice this side is longer and this side is longer. And the 3x corresponds to the 60. And when I do that, it's a no calculator problem. If I do 75 over 100 and 3x over 60, I'm going to find that both of those simplify. So, like I've been saying, I'm sticking with the second over first technique. So remember, this 75 corresponds with this 100. So 75 over 100 equals 3x over 60 because this one is rotated. There's no calculator. I definitely want to simplify before I begin. 75 and 100, well, they both divide by 25. In fact, you may already know that that's 3/4. 3x and 60, those both divide by 3. And 3 divided by 3 is 1, so I have x over 60 divided by 3 is 20. This is going to be much easier to handle. In fact, you may already see that to get from a 4 to a 20, we would have had to multiply by 5. So I think that this is going to be a 15. But let's go ahead and do the work. That's going to be 4x. And 3 times 20 is going to be 60. Divide both sides by 4. And 60 divided by 4 is 15. That's a good one to know. And you might know that because there are 4 sets of 15 minutes in an hour. That's how I remember that one. So x equals 15. Next one, number 15. Also a no calculator problem. We have these 2 stars here. And I'll let you look at your paper more closely, but this is a 3 and a 3x, and this is a 2x and a 50. So I'm going to go 3 over 3x equals 2x over 50. Be careful when I write this. 3 over 3x, and that's my second over first, equals this 2x over 50. And both of these simplify. 3 and 3, that becomes 1 over x. Right, I divided by 3, divided by 3. And then here I can divide by 2 and divide by 2. Oh, 2x divided by 2 is just x. 50 divided by 2 is 25. And now I multiply these. What's x times x? I wonder if you remembered this on your homework. It's x squared. X times x is x squared. X squared equals 25. Now, how do you solve that? Well, you square root both sides. And there's a rule in math that you've probably only learned once or twice, but if you square root a variable, on the other side, you have to account for a plus and minus answer, a positive and negative answer. So if we square root a variable, we always put a plus and a minus here outside the 25. We're going to have 2 answers. The square root of x squared just becomes x. Those cancel. And then the square root of 25 is 5. And we can either have a positive 5 or a negative 5. Now, if we look at our problem, it really wouldn't make sense to say that this side is negative 15 units and this side is negative 10 units. So we're going to call this answer extraneous, which means it doesn't work. And we're just going to use x equals positive 5 for our answer. Number 16. No tricks here. This is set up very straightforward. 9 over 9x and x squared over 8. These simplify. If I divide top and bottom by 9, I get 1. Remember, you can't leave an empty numerator. I get 1 over x goes x squared over 8. X squared times x, remember there's an invisible exponent of 1 here. So x squared times x is x to the power of 3 equals 8. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you have something cubed, it means a number times itself 3 times must equal 8. So what number, if multiplied by itself 3 times in a row, would equal 8? Well, we know that number is 2. But how we solve this mathematically is we take the cube root of both sides. Because taking a cube root undoes the cube. Those are inverse operations. So x equals cube root of 8, and this is one you have to know, or you could use a factor tree. 8 equals 4 times 2. 4 equals 2 times 2. And there's your 2 times 2 times 2. That's your cube root. So x equals 2. And now we're on 18. Oh, here it is. 18, they gave us a scale factor, and they called it a dilation factor. That means that you've made something bigger. So the dilation factor is the same as a scale factor, and that's 3 to 10. That's little over big. So this is going to actually be little over big. So for some reason, they gave us the dilation factor with the first one first. Not sure why, but we'll go ahead and follow that. So they said 3 over 10 was a dilation factor. And I'm going to say, well, the small car and the big car, so the 5 needs to correspond with the smaller number. X needs to correspond with the 10. This would be 50. 3 times x would be 3x. Oh my gosh, I said you could use a calculator on this? Wow. Divide both sides by 3. X equals 50 divided by 3. You would put that in your calculator, and you would see that it was 16.6666, and when you round that to the nearest tenth, it becomes 16.7. And finally, number 20. The small house was scaled by a factor of 1.8 to make the big house. Find x. I saw some of you did 1 over 8. That is not the same as 1.8. Those numbers aren't the same at all. 1.8 is a scale factor. Remember, if you're given a scale factor, you can multiply the original times the scale factor to get the corresponding side. So all I have to do here is do 1.8 times 5. All right, 0, carry your 4. 90, I have 1 decimal digit here. I need 1 decimal digit there. So my answer is 9.